morning, everyone, and welcome back to Virtual Storytime from your very own Newark Public Library. As always, oh, good morning, Kaylee. I'm glad you hopped in to join us, kitty cat. We are recording this live story stream on land that rightfully belongs to the Lenape Indian tribe. And if you are tuning in from anywhere in our fair city of Newark, New Jersey, you are probably also on land that rightfully belongs to that Indian tribe. I am your host, Mix Allie. Let me just clear my throat real fast. Hopefully that will be better. I am your host, Mix Allie. That's Mix, just like mixing bowl, not to be confused with Miss, Ms., Mr., or Mrs., because as you can see very well, I am not a boy, nor am I a girl. I am a non-binary unicorn. And my storytelling companion is a boy unicorn. Please put your hands together and welcome back the one and only Jonathan Van Unicorn. Good morning, everyone. Oh, how delightful to be back here. Look at all your beautiful faces. Oh, give yourselves a real pat on the back for being so fabulous today. Jonathan, I am totally with you. I think everyone is doing great this morning. Oh, yes, and isn't it a great morning to be doing so great? It really is. Mix Allie. Yes, Jonathan. I've been admiring this t-shirt that you're wearing for a while, but I'm not sure I know what it's all about. Jonathan, I am delighted that you noticed here. Let me show this off for a second. Yes, it's got these wild creatures doing all sorts of amazing, magical-looking things. Yeah, and it says Imagination Celebration. Yes, it does. What does all that mean? Well, Jonathan, this is one of my very favorite bookish t-shirts, and you all know I have a lot of them, because it is celebrating the illustrations of Maurice Sendak. Who is that? I will tell you, he is an author who drew and wrote stories about a whole lot of magical creatures and fascinating humans. Did he write about unicorns? You know, Jonathan, I'm not sure if he specifically wrote about unicorns, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of the creatures he did write about are folks who might be your neighbors in Unicorn Land. All right, I'll keep an eye on that. Well, the reason that I wore my Maurice Sendak t-shirt today in particular is because yesterday was Maurice Sendak's birthday. Oh, how marvelous! I know! I thought that today would be a great day to celebrate that author. He wrote so many good books. One that you may have heard of is Chicken Soup with Rice. There's Where the Wild Things Are, In the Night Kitchen. He wrote all kinds of great books. And I definitely, Jonathan and anyone watching, would encourage you to check more of his books out. That's magnificent, Mix Allie. Well, I'm so excited to hear about that. Are we going to read one of his books today? As a matter of fact, we are. We're going to read Where the Wild Things Are. Oh my! Well, of course, they're in Unicorn Land. See, Jonathan? Exactly. So, I don't think that this book ever names the place where the main character of the book meets all the wild things, so we could absolutely imagine that it is Unicorn Land. There are a couple of other things, Jonathan, that I think are really interesting to know about Maurice Sendak before we start reading his book. Oh, do tell, Mix Allie. I love learning about the authors that we read here on Virtual Storytime. They're always so fascinating. Awesome. Well, Maurice Sendak is particularly cool because his life story reminds me a lot of some of the things we've been talking about on Virtual Storytime lately, because we have been celebrating LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Oh yes, we have! We've been celebrating members of the queer or gay or LGBTQ plus community, because it's Pride Month and it's a great time to honor their voices and identities and experiences. That's right. And as a matter of fact, Maurice Sendak is a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Do you have any ideas why that might be, Jonathan? Well, we've talked about what it means to be part of that community, the LGBTQ plus community. That stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or the plus is for anything else that might make you identify with that community. So, well, he could have been a lesbian, which is a woman who falls in love with other women. He could be a man who falls in love with another man. That's what the G, gay, stands for. He could be bisexual, which means he likes people who are both his same gender and also people who are of other genders. He could, Mixally, it's totally possible that he's transgender. That is the T. That means that you have a gender that is different from the one you were assigned when you were born. He could simply be Q for queer, which means, any of those other things, or something else, or some combination of them, or just anyone who thinks that word best describes their experience. Or, Mixally, finally, he could be part of the plus. He could be something else that we haven't even discussed in depth yet, like asexual, pansexual, intersex. Oh my goodness, there are so many choices. I have no idea. Tell me, what was the identity of Maurice Sendak? Well, as far as we know, Jonathan, Maurice Sendak was a gay man. He was very, very devoted to his partner, who he loved very much, whose name was Eugene Glynn. Oh, how marvelous! So he was a man who fell in love with a man. That is correct. And the two of them had a very, very happy life together. So it's exciting for us to be able to read one of the great books that Maurice Sendak wrote, and it's also exciting for us to be able to celebrate what his life was like. And something else, Jonathan, that's really cool about Maurice Sendak is that he was also part of a big Jewish family. Some of his family was affected by the Holocaust, which is pretty terrible event in history that some of you may already know about. If you don't know about it already, you're going to learn about it at some point in your life. It's a very important thing to know about. And Maurice Sendak's Jewish family lived in the United States by the time that little Maurice was born. And as a matter of fact, he based some of the magical creatures that you're going to see in Where the Wild Things Are on members of his family. Did he really? Yeah. Legend has it that Maurice Sendak had one relative who every time that she saw him, she would pinch him by the cheeks and say, "I'll eat you up, I love you so." Oh, we've all had relatives say things like that to us, I think. Yeah, I think we have. And so Maurice Sendak, when he wrote this book about the wild things, you're going to see that his wild things are very wild, but they're also very lovable, and that's because he based them on people that he knew in his own family. Oh, that's really delightful. I know, right? So Jonathan, are you ready to listen to a story written by Maurice Sendak? most, Mixelli, but I think we should do an anti-anxiety exercise first, just in case anyone watching is feeling anxious this morning. Great idea, Jonathan. That is the other thing we've been discussing a lot on virtual Storytime lately, is what can you do if you feel anxious, which is another way of saying worried or scared, so that you can be brave and keep getting the great things that you have to do done during the day. Jonathan, what's something that anyone watching can do right now if they're feeling anxious? Oh, I know one. We haven't done this in a few days. You can always scan for safety. That's one of the 4 different actions we learned about last week. There's scan for safety, use your 5 senses, ground yourself in your body, and breathe in and out. Nicely done, Jonathan. I'm so excited that you remember that. And anyone watching, please let us know if any of those techniques have been helpful for you. Today we're going to scan for safety. So Jonathan, let's do that together and walk everybody through it. All right, I got this. I'm ready. Okay, first everyone, slowly look to your right. Slowly look to your left. Do that a few more times. Make sure that wherever you're looking, you're noticing the stuff that you're looking at. And if your gaze happens to notice something, feel free to stay looking at that thing. Mixelli, are you looking at anything in particular in our studio here? Yeah, actually, Jonathan, I'm taking a nice close look at the unicorn purse hanging from my closet door. Oh, see, that's a wonderful idea. See, a lot of the time, folks, when we are anxious, what's happening is that our brains and our bodies are telling us something dangerous is right nearby. But a lot of the time, there's nothing actually dangerous right nearby right now, and it's important for us to be able to keep going, keep moving, keep doing what has to be done. So, Mixelli, is there anything dangerous in your room right now? You know what, Jonathan? That's a really good point. There isn't. I don't think that there is. And how did it help you to focus on your beloved unicorn purse? I know that's one of your favorite purses. It is, Jonathan. And just taking a look at that unicorn purse helped me remember that even though there are a lot of scary things in the world, right now, I am safely here in my room with you. Yes, me. Yes, you. And Kaylee the kitty cat, whose ear just pricked up when I said her name. And all of us are perfectly safe, and we can just keep on doing whatever we need to do today. We can all be brave. Oh, wonderful. All right, I hope that everyone watching is ready to be brave now too, and ready to enjoy a story. All right, Jonathan, why don't you go and get cozy and listen to this story. All right, folks, I'm going to go and settle down for story time. I suggest you do the same, but I'll be back for our unicorn dance party at the end of the show. Excellent. All right, folks, I am so excited to read a book by Maurice Sendak, fabulous author and member of the LGBTQ plus community and also the Jewish community today. Many of you may have read this book before, and I kind of think that if you have, you'll be extra excited because it's just so good. This is Where the Wild Things Are, Story and Pictures by Maurice Sendak. Ooh, here are some of those wild things. And we already learned Maurice Sendak imagined these monsters by imagining his own family. as really, really fierce, really wild, but really lovable monsters. As we're reading through this, maybe think about your own family. If they were going to be lovable monsters, what would they look like? Ooh, here is our main character, Max. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing. And Max said, "I'll eat you up!" So he was sent to bed without eating anything. Do you have a costume that you like to wear? For Max, it's this wolf costume. I know some of you love to wear a superhero cape, a unicorn horn, a crown. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. How is Max feeling in these pictures? He still looks a bit angry about being sent to his room, but something magical is happening there. And grew. Ooh, now Max looks excited. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat just for Max. And he sailed through night and day. I don't know if you can tell, but that boat is called Max. Max is in a world now where everything belongs to him. That would probably feel really good if you were angry about being sent to your room. And in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth. And rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, "Be still!" and tamed the monsters with a magic trick. Of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. And made him king of all wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start!" Look at that, they're all dancing in the moonlight. That's what a wild rumpus is. Max is having a good time, too. Some of them are hanging from trees and swinging. Do you like to climb trees or swing on monkey bars? Max sure does, and so do these wild things. Look at how much fun they're having. What a great wild rumpus. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. Oh, just like his mom did to him. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely. He wanted to be with someone who loved him best of all. Then all around, from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So, he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go! We'll eat you up! We love you so!" But Max said, "No!" The wild things roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through a day. And it was still hot. Oops. Oh no. I think that this version of the book stops before the end. But the end of the story is that Max makes it safely back to his home and his room and his bed. I'm going to have to find a better version of that book than the ebook that I read you today. But I hope you all enjoyed the story of Max traveling away from his bedroom and into the land where the wild things are. And you know, it makes a lot of sense to me that Max felt better going back to his own room after an adventure like that, because during his adventure with the wild things, he really got to experience being in control. He got to be the king of all the wild things. He had his own private boat. And when he got back home, it was because he decided to go there. And that probably felt really great. All right, well, now it's time for us to have our own wild rumpus, which typically around here we call a unicorn dance party. Thank you so much for joining us for virtual story time from the Newark Public Library. Jonathan Van Unicorn and I are here every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 2 p.m. We also have virtual bedtime stories at 7 p.m. on Monday evenings. So please join us again for stories anytime you care to. This afternoon, we'll be reading more of our chapter book, which we're finishing tomorrow, which means new chapter book starting Monday. But we'll be reading more of Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie this afternoon, and we hope that you will join us for that. In the meantime, get on your feet and rock out with us to a wild unicorn rumpus. Thanks for being here today.
Princess with the crowns and castles crowd. They frowned at him and said, "Sorry, you're not allowed." So they found some dress-up wings and brought them to share and play. And everyone agreed to take turns being a princess for the day. Princesses are for everyone. Because everyone likes to have fun, and having fun is for everyone. Amy wanted to catch frogs at the lake in all the mud. The kids said, "No, your shoes will get dirty, you can't keep up with us." So she reached into her backpack and pulled her rain boots on her feet. That day they caught the most frogs, and later they set them free. Princesses are for everyone. Make believe is for everyone. Getting dirty, playing outside is for everyone. We do the things we like to do because everyone likes to have fun, and having fun is for everyone. Playing together is the best way to have fun. Leaving someone out only hurts everyone.